Hey guys, it's RodimusPrimal. I am back in another video, and today I'm going to be talking to you guys about Hasbro Pulse's fan stream that they did today for the Transformers. We have a lot of Studio Series and Legacy Evolution reveals to talk about, and on things to come. Of course, got a lot to talk about, so sit back, relax, make sure you're subscribed to the channel, and let's transform and roll out. Now, before I get started, I do want to thank each and every one of you who has subscribed to the channel so far. We're over 98,000 subscribers. We're shooting for that 100K. I do have a Goldbug retrospective that's on its way too, and as well as some toy reviews that some folks have been waiting for me to actually give my opinion on. And I've got a lot of cool stuff coming down the pipeline as well. So, of course, if you're not already subscribed to the channel, please do so, but you can also help support the channel and keep us going. I do have a Patreon page as well as my channel memberships, and I also have my Teespring store, which does help support the channel as well with some pretty cool RodimusPrimal merch, as well as some pretty cool t-shirt designs that I've created. So let's get into the Transformers news. So as I said today, this was Hasbro Pulse's big fan stream, and it seems that they wanted to get ahead of a lot of the leakers that have been trying to show off the Transformers figures before Hasbro got an opportunity to show them themselves. And we did get an opportunity to see some pretty cool figures that we hadn't seen before, and some things that we're excited about. Like we have, let's just give an example. I know a lot of people are excited for Transformers Rise of the Beasts, and they've been like every single week, the past couple of weeks, just kind of showing one or two figures, up until now, before they really went ahead and talked about them in the live stream. So we've already seen this particular Bumblebee figure, as well as his off-road vehicle, appearance, which is really, really nice. I know a lot of folks, like for myself personally, you guys know I do prefer an older vehicle, but I like this off-road Bumblebee for the specific reason that, well, they're going to Machu Picchu and, having a difficult time trying to traverse the terrain. Maybe, I honestly wonder if this particular version of Bumblebee is what we've seen in the trailer. Something happens to him and then he gets a little bit of an upgrade with some armament, and then maybe that's what you see here, because that would make a lot of sense. In particular, I'm wondering where the storyline is going to go for it. I know a lot of folks are big Bumblebee fans, so it is something cool to see. Already talked about Battle Trap before. I think it's probably my favorite of the Rise of the Beasts designs, both in vehicle mode and in robot mode, because, well, he looks like a Transformer. And that's the thing. I like robots that, you can tell what they transform into. You can see some of the alt mode parts on them in robot mode that you can, make out and go, okay, I can kind of see the car, I can kind of see the truck, I can kind of see the jet, or even the animal that they turn into. And Battle Trap is no exception, because when you look at him in robot mode, it's a really cool looking vehicle. I believe it's an officially licensed GMC vehicle, but the tow truck, I'm not sure specifically with the toy, but I do know, at least in the vehicle mode itself, and I do like the robot design too. It's, like I said, it's probably my favorite of all of the different Rise of the Beast stuff that I've seen so far. And I love the hook hand, I love the mace. Really gives him a lot of character in that particular respect. And as far as designs in the movie, I really, really dig this version of RC in the movie. The toy, I'm a little bit on the fence about, but I do understand it is a core class figure, so you do have some expectations with it. With the official images that you see with the renders, the motorcycle looks good. And remember, we talked about this before with all the leaks that we saw, with this figure. She was mistransformed. Well, the official render shows her motorcycle, and it is a good looking motorcycle. I know people are like, I would rather her be all pink, and some people are like, I don't mind, I wish she was blue. No, this is a good cross, combination of RC. Kind of gives us an Energon vibe to it, with RC in particular, where we're getting that RC design for a robot. She's recognizable. It is she does look like she has given herself an Earth mode from the Bumblebee movie, which this is a sequel to, which I think is a big thing when it comes down to a lot of the characters. How much progression are you able to see from the character before up until now? Which is kind of why there is a particular character, not a single one of, not many fans have expressed their displeasure before. But the cool thing about it is you can see the way that they've actually done the wheels, how they have them on the back of the leg. I know it kind of makes her stand a little bit weird, but I think it was done for the reason that as you see in the trailer, she puts them out so she can roll on them while she's holding on to, Wheeljack and shooting in the trailer. And that was kind of like the whole idea there. And when you look at the robot mode itself, like in the actual model here, the actual figure here, the head design is a little weird. In the actual movie, it looks better. This is where I was saying, like, the figure doesn't look as good as the movie, and she looks really good in the movie. So at least that's my opinion on it. Airazor we've already talked about. Of course, we already know that she looks like she shares a lot of the details, but is kind of a new mold for the Kingdom Airazor, and we've already seen what she looks like in burn mode. It is a kind of a meh for me. Not in the sense that, like, if you're a fan of Studio Series, don't go for it, but more so like I'm happy with the Kingdom Airazor, as a representation of the classic Beast Wars character. Now, this particular Cheetor design feels like it is a cross between both like the Transmetal Cheetor from season 2, as well as a cross between that the Beast Machines era of Beast Wars, where it was a very, very different type of robot design. And I kind of like it and I kind of don't. I think it's the face sculpt that kind of bugs me a little bit. Just the way that the whole faceplate is, the way it's designed, just kind of looks a little bit weird compared to like many of the classic Beast Wars. Because Beast Wars, for those of you who don't know, Beast Wars was the series for some of us, myself included, where Beast Wars, in my opinion, saved the franchise. The live action films did not save the franchise at all. It was Beast Wars that did it. And because, in the 90s, it was a failing brand with Generation 2. So Beast Wars did it. And that's where RodimusPrimal comes, or Primal part of RodimusPrimal comes from, is that. And I'll repeat that all the time, is that Beast Wars is a fantastic series. That and animated. I love Beast Wars. I love animated. And of course, I'm a big G1 guy. So as far as like characters is concerned, he looks cool. I do like the cheetah mode. The only thing that I have to say, like, and this is just my honest opinion, is I'm looking at the pale brown-ish color instead of like a bright yellow that cheetahs normally are. I think it might have to do with the idea, and this is just, speculation, that maybe the Beast Wars characters looked like their classic selves earlier in the film. Like, as far as like I don't know if they're going to be doing time travel. And I think that's probably going to be the storyline, is that I'm willing to bet that the Maximals and Predacons came to Earth, fought their Beast Wars, and then the Maximals themselves were locked away in Machu Picchu, and they get reawakened in the present day, and now they look a little bit more rustic, so to speak, as far as color schemes is concerned. And if that's the case, I'm all right with it, because maybe their organic animal parts are not necessarily there anymore, and this was basically the robotic animal, the robotic animal that was underneath the fleshy part to them. That would make a little bit more sense. The only thing is, of course, they're not in scale with the original Beast Wars characters, which was a lot smaller, and that's okay, because they're trying to have the characters interact. I still think that it's a missed opportunity to have Gary Chalk and Peter Cullen having both Optimuses meet, and this is a missed opportunity for them, but that's neither here nor there. Now, when I first saw these images for the official release for Scourge, I was kind of looking at him and going, I don't like this. First and foremost, I don't like the spindly legs. Those legs are just too narrow, in my opinion, even for the character, because the model in movie, his legs are a little bit thicker. But as far as the robot itself is concerned, on its own, he looks cool. He's lacking color. I said this before when I saw the leaks of this figure, and now that I'm thinking about it, that claw hand kind of makes me honestly take a look at his name, Scourge, which is, when you're using like this, like it's like a whip with like glass and stuff like that, like tied to the end, and whipping somebody. It's a form of torture that the Romans used back in 2,000 years ago, and scourging somebody could have torn pieces of flesh. And so when you look at those claws, that's a pretty good, that claw in particular, that's what I honestly think of. The other thing is that with his truck mode and his robot mode, he reminds me of a merger between two different versions of Scourge. And yes, he looks like the G1 character, and he looks like the 2001 Car Robots Black Convoy character. Looks like they took the combination of both of those characters and made it into one version of Scourge, and I kind of dig that. I also, if you look at his helmet design, it kind of reminds me of Unicron, because, well, I'm thinking that the Terracons in particular are probably reborn Decepticons, just like the G1 origin for Galvatron and his Decepticons. But this version of Scourge might have a similar origin story. And so his face and helmet is that of a Unicron soldier. You know what it also kind of reminds me of? It looks like to me, and this is just for those of you who have read the Marvel comics back in the late 80s, early, like almost 1990, somewhere around there, when Unicron's forces attacked Cybertron and the Autobots and Decepticons fought together against them. They all looked like warrior Unicron robots. That's what I honestly think of when I think of that helmet design in particular. And of course, he does have the beard that Scourge did back in G1, so it's kind of like a cross between both characters. I like his weapons, but I think the biggest thing that I have a problem with, and I still think this is an issue, is his colors. Yes, the vehicle itself is very pale. It's very, black. It's almost Mad Max-esque. But I wish that the robot itself, like the orange highlights, because when you look at the truck has these awesome looking orange windows. And I wish some of that orange crossed over into the robot a little bit more to give us some more color. And I also think that when you're looking at this particular truck mode with the official photography, the leaks were mistransformed. So this actually kind of looks a little bit better, but the smokestacks themselves are a little bit separated from the vehicle. And I'm all right with that. But, I really dig this particular character as the character from what we've seen so far. I just wish his robot mode had more color. And the vehicle mode is really, really cool for like an off-road, like a monstrous truck, which is what he's supposed to be. I know a lot of people right now who are live action fans are like, oh my gosh, he looks like Megatron. Well, he's not Megatron. It's a different character. Because it seems that like ever since, what was the last time that we saw a live action interpretation of Megatron, and we were supposed to get a G1 styled Megatron in Bumblebee, but we didn't. So I'm honestly wondering, if we're going to see Megatron and the Decepticons once again. So we'll see where they go with it. Now, when they moved back to Legacy Evolution, this is where I was getting really excited, because a lot of the figures, we wanted to see what was in store. This Legacy Evolution, or at least the entire Legacy line, has been a celebration of all different Transformers series all together, where like a new figure comes out and it might not have been a character who was G1, and we get a figure for him and we're like, oh yes, I would definitely like to see that figure on my shelf as well, alongside my other G1 bots too. I have Legacy Armada Starscream. And I can either think of him as an alternate universe Starscream, or I can think of him as a different character. I'm allowed to do that within my own fiction. And to have those particular figures, those particular versions of characters, it allows a lot of people to be able to celebrate. And I think that's a good thing. The problem, what we're seeing right now, is that, whenever a non-G1 figure comes out, those of us who are G1 fans are like, yeah, that's cool. I would love to see, I didn't think about that character before, or maybe I like that particular character in that series. I would certainly love that character on my shelf. And then what happens is that right next to that character is a G1 character. And what happens is that you start to see people go, oh, a G1 character? Won't those old G1ers just go off into the sunset, please, or something? And I'm like, can't we all celebrate Transformers together? And of course, no, of course not. Instead, what you have is people who are on different like message boards and Discord forums and sit there and say things like, all those old G1ers, like, man, like they are the worst. Like they are the absolute worst. They don't like Michael Bay's Transformers. Yeah, maybe a lot of us don't like Michael Bay's Transformers. Does that make any of us less of a Transformers fan? Yes, because for whatever reason, we can say we don't like a particular Transformer series. I do not like the Michael Bay films. I don't. And I don't hate the fans who like it, because it might have been their introduction to Transformers. Cool. Awesome. Let's enjoy Transformers together. No, you're a G1er. You're a G1er. Like you can't, I like animated. Yeah, but you only like animated because you only like Beast Wars because, like, stop it. Let's stop, for real. Legacy is a celebration of Transformers, and all of these reveals allow all of us to have various different versions of characters. Whenever you should be just as excited for a G1 character as a non-G1 character. And for those of us who may or may not want a particular character, maybe it might save your wallet a little bit, especially in this economy. But anyway, let's look at some of these figures. The first of which is a core class Grimlock. And Grimlock, first and foremost, if you guys don't know, the Pretenders in the late 80s, back in G1, you had these Pretender Combiners, which was a team of Decepticons, and they were rather on the small side, and all of them merged to form, and Monstructor was a Micromaster Combiner. The robots themselves had all of these weird different colors, and their pretender shells, looked like monsters. That was the whole gimmick behind them. Well, in Japan, during Transformers Victory, they released the same figure in different colors as Dino King, and the pretender shells were not monsters. Instead, they were dinosaurs. And the leader of the Dino Force, as they were known, was the Decepticon Goryu. And I could be mispronouncing that, but he had a T-Rex, pretender shell, but it was the same monster pretender from G1, which was Ice Pick. And he formed the leg of Dino King. And that is what we are getting with this particular Grimlock. You can kind of see the similarities between Goryu and Grimlock here, just in robot mode alone. There are some similarities. There are differences. Yes, there's a lot of differences, of course. And of course, they're probably going to retool that head and retool that chest to look more like Goryu in particular. But I would not be surprised if we were going to see a Dino King after the Dinobots are released. Personally speaking, I am not a big fan of the Dinobots as a combiner. I think that they were a team that never needed to combine. They were powerful enough as they were. They could go toe-to-toe with Devastator. And his T-Rex mode in particular looks okay. I'm going to be honest with you. I'm going to be more excited about Goryu as a dinosaur, as a T-Rex, than I am about Grimlock as a core class T-Rex, because Transformers Victory is awesome. But one that I think that some folks are going to be happy about, I know I've heard a lot of people say like they collect any version of Nemesis Prime whenever it comes out. In Japan, anytime an Optimus Prime figure is released, there's always going to be a Nemesis Prime figure. So of course, we're going to get Nemesis Prime in the core class line, and it's just the Kingdom Optimus core class done as Nemesis, and he looks good. But what I do like, though, is that he comes with his battle axe, which I believe the original one had his blaster. I don't know if he has his blaster as well. His truck mode looks good. I haven't been collecting all of the core class figures. Some of the core class figures that I do have, I really, really enjoy, specifically the Seekers and Soundwave. Soundwave is the best out of all of the core class figures that they've released so far, and I really would love them to do one in his blaster, but we'll see. And as I said, I have, both Starscream and Skywarp. And if you know that they're going to do Starscream, you know that it's going to be very easy for them to do Skywarp and Thundercracker. So they've already done Skywarp. They've got to do Thundercracker. And Thundercracker is an absolute must for anyone who likes these core class figures. And for those of us who have been at least collecting any of the Seekers in particular, I like it. I really do. It actually is one of the really good molds out of the core class figures. I'm wondering if he comes with both arm blasters, like if he does have both of his, null rays or whatever on his arms. Because if he only has one, it would kind of suck. Because then he would look weird in jet mode. Because you can see here, like they have one blaster on the side here, but they don't have both. Which means that there's probably going to be some people who are going to be doing some 3D printing. I have, Skywarp didn't come with his arm blasters. And my Starscream I got secondhand didn't have his arm blasters, so there's no ray cannons. So I would like to see, obviously some folks doing some 3D printing, or maybe even some injection mold like Non-F or something like that to release the core class blasters in particular. Now here is a character that actually got me very excited because I love the idea of collecting more Junkions. I have Wreck-Gar, I have Junkheap, and I got a second Wreck-Gar that I got the Non-F kit to turn him into Rubbish. And now to have a fourth Junkion, actually it's a fifth, because we would now also have Scrap Hook, which is, he turns into that vehicle, into that car, but now we have another one that turns into a motorcycle, and he resembles some of the other Junkions that we've seen in the 1986 movie. And he has his motorcycle mode, so that means that you're going to have to buy two of them in order to have him ride. But they also talked about in this live stream all of the different playability in the, with it. So you can take like one robot part and take another vehicle part and merge it together and form a bunch of pretty cool stuff. And of Crash Bar, as they're calling this character. Yeah, Crash Bar is a little bit of a weird name. It's a new one, but you can take the front half of Crash Bar and kind of merge that with Scrap Hook and do a whole bunch of interchangeable stuff. And to my understanding, they're supposed to be fully transforming Junkions, so you don't have the parts form. But then on top of that, with that as well, you could still take them apart like a weaponizer. And I think that is a really good, evolution kind of funny that they're calling it Legacy Evolution of the War for Cybertron trilogy, where you had weaponizers that you had to take apart into a million pieces and then put them back together in order to get them to transform, which I didn't really care for. So this being able to actually fully transform it is a welcome addition too. Now, when I got Kickback, I was like, man, they've really like outdone themselves with that particular Insecticon, and I would love to see how they do both Shrapnel and Bombshell. And I'm also expecting to see Chop Shop out of this particular mold too. But man, they really went ahead with Shrapnel here, and he looks fantastic. When I saw this, I was on the road as I was watching this. I was a passenger in a car, so I was like, man, I really, really would love to see how well they do Shrapnel in both modes in particular, and his insect mode is great. Look at that head. They finally got it where, like, the previous version of Shrapnel, those Titans Returns molds, or was a Prime Wars trilogy molds for the Insecticons, were rather on the small side, and the way that they got the insect heads just didn't look right to me. Whereas with Legacy, both first with Kickback and now with Shrapnel, they really like knocked them out of the park to give us a really good looking Shrapnel. And of course, I think they're calling him Sharpnel or something like that, or Scrapnel. They could be calling it a different name, and that's just because of trademark reasons. But he looks fantastic, and I really want to see how they do Chop Shop. If they do Chop Shop, I wonder if they're going to retool parts of him so that he kind of stands out. Don't make him just a straight repaint, because that was the thing with Ransack with that Legacy. I think it was the Legacy 4-pack with Goldbug, that it's just Kickback again in a different color and a different head. And to me, that didn't like differentiate the deluxe Insecticons from the, standard trio that we know. And what they even said during the live stream was that, yes, they are going to be doing all three of the, initial Insecticons. And I wouldn't be surprised if they also do more of them, because they had plenty of Insecticons behind them. So we already saw Ransack. I'm sure we're going to see Chop Shop. Maybe we'll see Barrage, and maybe we'll see Venom. Venom will probably have to be renamed because Marvel owns that character, or Disney owns that character. But we'll see where they go. Now, this one in particular, I know some folks either love the mold or hate the mold for Skids, and I actually dug the mold for Skids. My only complaint really was that he didn't have red hands, and Crosscut, I believe, also had red hand as well. Crosscut is more in line with the Diaclone mold for this particular figure, and so having that head with the faceplate and all, and his colors. If you don't know who Crosscut is, they gave him like an explanatory story. Is that you have Road Rage, who is the female red version of Trax, is the bodyguard of Crosscut. Crosscut is a ambassador from Cybertron that goes to different planets to establish peace relations with other races of other worlds. And it's just something that Crosscut does, and he needs a bodyguard, and that is Road Rage. So if you've already gotten Road Rage, you're probably going to want to get Crosscut too. The only thing that really sucks, and I know I've seen a lot of complaints about this, is that his wheels are red. And they did that because it shares the mold with the weapons and his hands, and so the wheels end up being red, and I'm like, it's like the one thing that I don't care for. And I'm like, how in the world are we going to be able to like fix that? Can we paint that or what have you? It's just like a cost-cutting measure that I'm just not too pleased with. But I'm sure that, those of you who are fans of the character will absolutely go for him anyway and won't really care. And for those of you who don't care about the character at all, just skip him anyway. Now, I said this before when he was initially leaked, was that Prowl was a character that I really, really dug in Transformers Animated. I've said this once, I'll say this again. I love Transformers Animated as its own series. And I love the fact that it is the series that introduced us to the Bulkhead that we truly know. The real Bulkhead. Like, yes, okay, you have Energon Bulkhead. That was a helicopter, but he was called Sprung in Japan, so it's kind of a different character. Bulkhead in Animated was the first true Bulkhead. Even more so than the Transformers Prime character. I like them both, but I think the animated character is kind of like where they were going for with Legacy, even though they went with the Prime universe as far as the labeling is concerned. But animated is where I was like, oh yeah, definitely with Prowl giving us the motorcycle. And I like this particular figure. I like the robot design completely. I really, really dig it. I also like, if you look at his legs, just from the official photography, you know what it kind of reminds me of? Have you ever seen those Highway Patrol, like, chips, right? Which is that is quite literally where Derek J. Wyatt went, when he took Prowl, he made Prowl in G1 colors in white with the red chevron and everything, which is where the Autobot symbol comes from, those of you who don't know. And he looked at this particular, he looked at Prowl and he was like, why don't I kind of make him look like Chips, and make him look like Eric Estrada's, because he's a motorcycle, right? So he made him in black and gold, and it worked, and he's a ninja character. I dig it. I like the Transformers animated character altogether. I think the motorcycle mode looks good. I think the robot mode looks good. And for me, as a G1 guy, I say, I'm going to get this guy, and I'm going to call him a different name. I said this before once, and I'll say this again. I'm going to call him Night Prowler, right? And his nickname is Prowl. And, which is why everybody, knows him as Prowl, but he's Night Prowler, yes, like the Cheetor repaint. And the reason why is because he's black and gold, and it works. And it allows me to have both characters on the shelf, both characters exist, and allows me to, have a figure from animated exist in the same universe as G1. But for those who were like, oh no, I really love Transformers animated, I'm going to go with this. I don't have the animated figure, so I'm going to go for this particular figure. Yeah, go for it. That's the whole beauty of Transformers Legacy. It allows us all, as Transformers fans, to be able to enjoy these characters and enjoy these figures in the way that we see fit. And I think that's awesome, especially when it's a G1 or especially when it's not a G1 character. It doesn't matter. And that's the whole point. Now, I talked about this yesterday. Or actually, I posted this on my community page yesterday, and that was Metal Hawk. And Metal Hawk is a retool of Kingdom Cyclonus, which is by far one of the greatest molds out of that particular lineup. To see how, you see the shoulders are very much the same, the legs, the fists, but brand new head, brand new chest. The transformation is probably the same, and that's pretty cool too. But I'm looking at this, the figure, and I'm going, he looks great. He looks awesome. And the only thing that kind of stinks for some people is they're like, how do we do the Pretender shells? Well, the Autobot Pretenders looked like humans. So the only really way to be able to do that is in order to turn it into battle armor. Well, they don't do that with this figure, which kind of stinks. But Metal Hawk, like I said, he was the leader of the Pretenders until God Jinrai came about, and he was the new leader of the Cybertrons or Autobots in Transformers Master Force. So Metal Hawk is cool. Definitely a cool character. His jet mode here, looks like he has like a sword blaster. Oh, I see what they're doing. They're actually going to turn his blasters are going to be the tail fins. That is actually an ingenious way to do it, because I was wondering how they were going to get that stylized jet, Earth jet, made out of Cyclonus and redo the wings and everything. And I think this really works because it doesn't have that same, transformation, scheme like altogether. It's a little bit different, but it's very much the same. And I think they actually did a really good job out of that. I like the tail fins, and the wings. Looks awesome. Definitely looks awesome. Definitely on my want list too. Metal Hawk is a great character. Now, this one is interesting because it's Blaster reborn as Twincast. And if you guys saw my Blaster retrospective, I talked about Twincast in how his Japanese name was Broadcast, and then he had a final fight with Soundwave. The two of them fought to the death, and then they both blew up into pieces, and then Blaster was rebuilt into Twincast, and Soundwave was rebuilt into Sound Blaster. The thing about them, the original figures, was that they both had, their chest was retooled to be able to hold 2 cassettes instead of 1. Well, they're not doing it the same way this time. Instead, what we're getting is Blasters is just going to be a recolor as Twincast, but they are using an alternate head with him. And it's not the G1 toy accurate head that some people really wanted, but it does have a little bit of a smirk, which kind of works because Twincast had a little bit of a different demeanor from Blaster, the way that Blaster did in the original cartoon. So, and he's definitely one that I certainly want for sure. I love the boombox mode and these new colors as well. And he also comes with Rewind. And Rewind is in clear plastic. I know some people were asking that question yesterday. Is the figure, clear plastic or is it solid plastic? But no, Rewind and Eject are both clear plastic. But the thing is that I'm not really worried about the clear plastic with those figures, because I noticed that particularly those 2 cassettes seem to have more, they're a lot more solid. Whereas like I've dealt with other clear plastic figures before, and where a lot of parts are clear plastic, and I do worry about the joints on them. I don't worry as much with these one in particular because they're a little bit thicker, and maybe that's a good thing. I'm hoping that we don't have to worry about that down the line. Now, this one is an interesting take on a character that only got one appearance in the Transformers Prime cartoon, and that is Skyquake. And what they've decided to do is to merge the elements from both Transformers Prime Skyquake and the European exclusive G1 pre-G2 era of like early 90s Skyquake that was released. And they've given us that particular chest just in a different color scheme. Obviously, this olive drab is Skyquake. And he looks good, you know? I know some people are like, yeah, definitely love it. I think it looks great. I definitely want it in my collection. I dig it. I think it's a good new Decepticon warrior that you can add to your collection for any reason. And yeah, he matches, you know, both Transformers Prime and that European early G2, G1 era. I kind of want to call it European G2, you know, because it's like it's like that in-between era where G1 ended here in America and then G2 started in like 92. So you had like 2 years with no Transformers toys on the shelves at all whatsoever. But in Europe, they were still releasing some figures, and this was one of them. So, you know, the Predator jet that he turns into is really, really cool. I like the color scheme. I think more folks are going to be waiting for the eventual Dreadwing redeco, but I'm curious how they're going to do Dreadwing, because people have said that Needlenose, the current legacy figure that's coming out, the dual target master, his jet mode can connect to Skyquake or what I think will eventually be Dreadwing. So I wouldn't be surprised if both Needlenose and this Dreadwing are going to get that G2 treatment, where it's going to be like that darker color scheme, and maybe we might get Smoke Jumper. I think that would be a better name for him than Smokescreen. So that's, or maybe BB and Starscream from Beast Wars the Second. Yeah, that you're talking about obscure characters right there. But the jet mode looks cool. I definitely did it. Now, seeing all of them together, I think it was a welcome addition too, to see all of them fighting each other. I like Skyquake's weapon, that big, you know, Gatling gun. Just for that alone makes me want to get that Skyquake figure. Crosscut, I'm kind of about, like, you know, in particular, Prowl is a must for me. Shrapnel is a must for me. Definitely, I actually like almost every single figure in this wave so far. But what I want to really give Hasbro credit for is that they decided in a way to get ahead of all of the leakers, the people who have been releasing stuff and letting everybody know what's coming down the pipeline. Hasbro decided to actually get on top of it. And they decided to reveal the next figures, or at least some of the characters who are going to show up in Legacy Evolution. And I thought this was a welcome addition. I think this is a great way to get a lot of us excited because, you know, back in the day, you would buy a Transformers figure and it would have this giant catalog, and it would have all the figures that are going to get released throughout the year, and have all the official photography for all of them in robot mode and everything. And, you know, you look at it and you go, this is awesome. I can't wait to see it, or can't wait to get it. You know, want to go to the store every single day to try and see if I can find that figure. That's how it was back in the 80s, right? And even when you looked at the back of the packaging for Beast Wars, it would have all those cross-promotional, you know, figures. You'd have like 10 figures or like 8 figures on the back of the packaging to let you know, hey, not only do you have Pterosaur now, but now you can get Rat Trap and Iguanus and Wolfang and whatever other character that you want to get. This was a great way to actually do something similar. So now we know that Beachcomber is coming to Transformers Legacy Evolution. We know that Devcon is a character that I did a retrospective for, and I'm wondering if maybe when this figure is finally revealed, which I won't be surprised if he is a retool of the Studio Series 86 Scourge, I wouldn't be surprised. But if they gave us a new mold, I would still buy it anyway. But because he was an awesome character, and I did a retrospective on him because it was like, what happened to him, right? What happened to Devcon? And he like flew off with Slizardo, but then Slizardo showed back up in season 3 of G1. So it's kind of cool to see that character get his own figure too. Dirge is one that if you missed out on the Conehead 2-pack, you're going to be able to get this particular character as well. I wonder if all 3 of the Coneheads are going to get re-released or do a package refresh, as they call it, where they re-release Dirge, then they'll release maybe Ramjet down the line, you know, maybe another wave, and maybe they'll do Thrust in another wave too once the Target exclusivity runs out. And maybe we should start asking if maybe they'll do the rest. A lot of Earthrise was missed out on by a lot of fans, and I would really be happy if for the people who missed out on some of those Earthrise molds to be able to get them again. And let's say if they decide to do a package refresh for, let's say, Trailbreaker or Sunstreaker. I'd be just as much welcome for that as I would be with the Battle Chargers, the Coneheads, or any other character from Earthrise that you may have missed out on. I think it's a great, you know, olive branch for everybody who was like, these Amazon exclusives, they're selling out, because it was in the middle of the pandemic. So people were missing out on it. But we also now know that they're also going to do a recolor of Leo Prime, or Lio Convoy as he's known. And they're going to do the Copy Convoy or Nemesis Convoy or whatever you want to call this lion in particular. I wonder what they're going to name him. But I'm glad they're doing this character too. I still have to get Lio Prime. So I haven't seen him in shelves yet, but I'm sure I'll start to see him soon. And this one got a lot of fans excited. I was watching the chat literally blow up like a monster. It was Armada Megatron. Now, this design was not one that I cared for. I'll be honest with you, just didn't care for it. There were cool gimmicks in the figure, like the flip out knife. There was cool gimmicks like how he merged with Tidal Wave, which is, you know, if they're going to do this particular Megatron, I'm hoping that they do Tidal Wave as well, and they do the whole merger of him as, you know, with it. But, you know, it just wasn't like, I did not care. I personally didn't care for the design. I'm sure a lot of Armada fans are going to be excited about that. I'm happy for the Armada fan that is getting a character like this version of Megatron to be able to put into their collection and to be a better fit. Hopefully it's going to be a better figure than the original one was, because the original one had too many gimmicks. It had all those Minicon ports and, you know, the sound effects, and like you had to, like, you put a Minicon in a different place and it would like pop something open. And I'm sure they're not going to do all of those gimmicks all over the place. Instead, what they're going to do is they're going to give you a solid looking, good action figure that transforms into a tank, you know, into the tank, and has this particular Megatron. So I'm excited for those fans. But and here's one more little tidbit of info that they gave us, was that Holiday Prime, or Christmas Prime, as I would say, is, because that's Christmas colors. It's not holiday colors. It's Christmas, right? So this particular Optimus, I saw some people really love this mold. I thought it's cool. They said they're going to release this in a standard color scheme. So if you didn't get the Christmas version of this mold, you will be able to get this mold in a more classic Prime design, and they are going to release it as part of Legacy at some point too. I know some people are like, where's the Armada Prime? And I'm like, I don't know. I don't know what they're going to do. But this particular Optimus does look cool. I like the head sculpt. You know what it kind of reminds me of, though? And I know that I think Larkin's Lair is actually doing a custom of this Optimus as Hero Prime from Generation 2. If they do that, I kind of want a G2 Megatron in purple. You know, that would be kind of neat to see those particular characters, you know, line up again. But with all that said, I'm hoping that, you know, that we can now see some olive branches being made with some of these Transformers, you know, figures coming out, having characters from different lines, from different series, all getting released around the same time, and we can all enjoy Transformers together. I want to know what you guys think about all these Transformers reveals. Of course, leave your thoughts in the comment section below. Be sure to thumbs up this video and subscribe. Check out my other videos as well. I have my new retrospective coming very soon, so stay tuned for that. And as always, guys, until next time, till all are one.